take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy?
I'm a human being, god damn it! My life has value! It's time to ask yourself what you believe.
Mass murder, torture, perjury, embezzlement, fraud, deception, treason. These are just a few of your many crimes against humanity. You will not win this war, for you are fighting the very essence of humanity.
Hey, welcome to Truth or Talk. I'm April Bud.
I'm Virstyne Henry.
You can check out our website at truthertalk.com and see our archive shows and our essays and our store and everything else. So today we're talking to Ty Bollinger. We're doing this cancer series, and we're bringing in Ty Bollinger of Cancer Truth. You can find he's written several books about cancer and the truth about cancer, what it is, how to heal from it, if you get it, how to prevent it, and all of that. And then he did a series not that long ago, which you can find at his website. I think it's cancertruth.net, called The Truth About Cancer. And you can find, there's a link on his website at cancertruth.net, or you can go straight to it. It's thetruthaboutcancer.com. And it's a whole series. He does several interviews and with a bunch of different people doctors and people who have experienced cancer and been able to
Cure themselves, basically.
Cure themselves using alternative methods, or what is considered alternative methods, I guess, but in ways that are not in the mainstream, using radiation and chemotherapy and surgeries. In some cases, they've used surgeries, but I think most of them forgo the radiation and the chemo, the ones that he talked to. So, yeah, it's really good. We had Ty on once before. You were unavailable. You were working, and I interviewed him by myself. And that was a while ago. But I had a lot of fun talking to him. He's a really lively spirit. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
And I highly recommend signing up for his Facebook page. He always gives a lot of useful information
About cancer and health and things like that.
Yeah, but it can be applied to anything. And the thing about going down the cancer rabbit hole is that you don't have to be diagnosed with cancer. I mean, you should just look at it, because even if you don't ever get cancer in your life, I mean, it just is about living a healthy lifestyle and the ways that you can prevent it, ways that you can prevent inflammation and candida and these things that could cause an imbalance that will lead to cancer later in your life. So it's just good information to look into. But I think most everyone has had an experience with cancer, or either themselves or through a family member. It's really, really common.
Yeah, I don't know anybody that's escaped it, like you said, either themselves or a friend or family member. Now it's become so prevalent. Mm-hmm. But it's not just, we talked to older people before, and we've heard them say that, it was really rare when they were coming up for somebody to get cancer, but now it's so common.
Right. Yeah, it's really, really common. I don't know what the numbers are now, but it's just bloody common. I mean, it's just all over the place. And it just is amazing to me that it's so common, and yet the standard of care treatment is so shitty. It's like the worst thing ever. Chemotherapy and radiation have, documented very, 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 very low success rates, a number of horrible side effects, and yet that's still all they use. It's like, well, all these people are getting cancer, and you can't do better than that. It's just so weird.
And there's been hundreds of millions of dollars put into the cure for cancer industry.
Oh my God, and then in October you have the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is so annoying. If you've ever seen Pink, what was it called? I'm going to see if I can look it up really. I think it was called Pink Ribbons Inc. or something like that, and I watched it on Netflix probably a little over a year ago. Yeah, it was called Pink Ribbons Inc. I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but it was streaming on Netflix about a year and a half ago, and it was based on a or it was a documentary, and there was a book about it in 2006, and it was just essentially gets into the the documentary came out in 2012. The book was in 2006, and it gets into the industry of cancer, but from this perspective of this like pink washing, all this pink ribbon shit that they sell on you in the month of October. You know, everywhere you go, it's like it's on you know, yogurt containers, and it's on like tennis rackets and
bras and whatever.
Everything.
Anytime like, I can find something to put a pink ribbon on. I think Mac had like a pink ribbon campaign at one time, or they have it every year. I know there are makeup companies that do it. And you know what, it sucks because they think that they're trying to do good. You know, these people that do these campaigns, they have the best intentions in mind. They don't really know.
That's not true. Do you see the documentary? This is a money.
No, I didn't.
They knew it from the start.
So, so like, okay, explain this to me then. So somebody that, if Mac wanted to do one, you don't think that, so you think that the people at the top know, is that what you're saying?
I think that they absolutely know, and I think that MAC makeup company, I don't think they're trying to do good. I think they're trying to sell more makeup products, and so they put a pink ribbon on it because they know that people who are buying it are trying to do good. They might go, oh yeah, I'm going to buy this because I'm going to support breast cancer, you know, awareness, which nobody even knows what that means, but they're thinking that, but the company MAC, oh hell no. If they really wanted to do good, they'd just give it straight to cancer. They wouldn't, you know, but they're trying to sell the product. And if you see in the documentary, the amount of money that is given through these companies like the Yoplait and the makeup companies and all of that is so minor. It's like it's useless. It's just, it doesn't do shit. They're just trying to make the money, and it's like it's such a low percentage of the profit that a lot of times it's just meaningless. It's just a meaningless gesture. They're just putting a pink ribbon on their label so that they can sell their products. And then the people who created this campaign, actually, the woman who made the pink ribbon, she designed it. And I forget her name, but she's in the documentary. And they actually tried to buy, it was a sect of some cancer society or whatever, and they tried to buy the image from her. And she said, well, no, I'm not going to give it to you because I know you guys are just going to, you're just using this to try and make money. And they were like, well, okay, then fine. We'll just take the exact same thing that you did, but instead of but we'll use a slightly different color. And so that's how the pink ribbon came about. Cause it was like more of a salmon-colored pink. It wasn't like this like bright pink that they used. And so they just took that from her, and they said, fine, and they didn't have to pay her a dime, and then just went on with it and used that as the campaign. Now it's the symbol that everybody recognizes as breast cancer awareness, but awareness just means when they say, okay, well, we're going to put so much of our budget into, quote, awareness, what they mean is that you're paying for their advertisement. You're just paying for them to advertise their products or their campaign to get more money from you. It's such a scam.
So these are the same people that did the AIDS ribbon too? Now everybody seems like they're different ribbons, right?
Well, I don't know if it's the same people, but I mean, it's the same concept.
Yeah.
It's the AIDS ribbon and but I think that the pink ribbon was the first one. I'm not certain about that, but that woman who created the ribbon was, she was too smart. You know, you see her in the documentary. She's an older lady, probably in her 70s about now, and she was like, oh, hell no, I don't want to give, you guys are just going to try to exploit it. And sure enough, that's exactly what they did.
Oh, yeah, there's so many different ribbons, though. I found, I was looking at a color chart of ribbons and diseases. So there's a black one for anti-gangs and melanoma and suicide. The blue one is anti-tobacco. That has a list of them. And then there's the gold with a childhood cancer awareness. Gray is for allergies. Red is for AIDS, purple is for ADHD and ADD. Like, it's crazy.
Great.
Like the whole,
it's just a campaign. It's just a scam. It's just trying to get people to, you know, support. It's just a way to advertise without calling it advertisement. And, you know, it's a non-profit quote. That just means they don't pay taxes, you know. But it doesn't mean that they don't make money.
Yeah.
They file for non-profit because they can give a certain amount to what they consider to be charity. But, I mean, what do they call charity? It's going to go back into them, into their income, the people that work for them, and so on and so forth. So it's like, the non-profit industry is such a scam that I did a bit on that a while ago. I wrote an essay about Autism Speaks because I wanted to point out how that organization just is a big old scam and tries to just they're basically just working with the pharmaceutical companies. That's the other thing too, is that research, when you give money for research, that is going to the pharmaceutical companies to pay for them to research drugs.
So we can lie about it and tell you that the drugs are completely safe, basically.
They can tell you the drugs are safe and effective, and you know whatever they want it, whatever they say. But I mean, can you believe that though? It's like these guys, the pharmaceutical companies make so much money. It's like the third largest, or if not, God, I don't even know. Maybe
it's toe-to-toe with the oil industry, I would say.
Yeah, it's toe-to-toe with the oil industry.
The numbers are, but they're up there. They're just as powerful. And yes, I can believe it. You know I believe it because I'm not like surprised. I'm not like shocked.
Yeah, but it's just so funny. It's that they make as much money as they do, and yet they want you to give them more in order for them to basically make more of their drugs so that they can sell you more of their unnecessary products that'll probably kill you.
Yeah. But
they're asking you to pay them to do it. It's like, and then you got to buy the drug anyway. It's not free. It's like, it's just so bizarre. It's such a like little shimmy sham on the whim. There's we interviewed a while ago. We had a great interview with this guy named Chris Wark, and we talk about him all the time on the show because it was our first time that we did a show on cancer, and we were so like uplifted and felt so it like reduced our fear of cancer by it just was amazing, and so it sticks out in my memory because it was that feeling. And he did a video. If we have time, I'll play it during the break. But it was a video about pink ribbons and pink washing and all of that.
Is that the one where you talk about also why he didn't run for the cure?
Exactly. I think that's the same one. Yeah, don't run for the cure. The American Cancer Association, same thing. You know, they it's another scam. You know, they're just it's the same thing. You're just putting your money into their funds. You're putting their money back into the pharmaceutical industry, etc., etc.
So is this the one who's like, and that's why I don't run for the cure?
Yeah, he's from the South. He's
cute,
so cute. He's adorable.
I was like, dang, Chris Wark. He's, yeah. Because I think there's some people, too, that, I mean, I don't know. They might heal themselves alternatively or by natural means, but they still don't take it that far as to be outspoken on, like, the business of cancer. Because that's just like another sect, another rabbit hole, or going deeper down the rabbit hole that some people don't want to explore.
Yeah, but it's unfortunate because people work hard for their money, and they work hard to take care of their family, earn their income to take care of their families. And you know, you might think you're going to the grocery store and it's October, and so it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Oh, would you mind, rounding up your cents to pay for breast cancer awareness? And I'm always like, no, I don't want to do that. I always say no to every charity that's out there, because most of them I know are not, legitimate. I know that that they're just stealing people's money, basically. But if it's Autism Speaks, when they do that autism awareness shit, I always make sure to tell them, explain it to them. And a lot of times the clerks look confused and befuddled, but I'm just like, let your manager know, like, we don't want you donating to Autism Speaks. Like, just, we, meaning me, other parents of autistic children, majority of us don't like them.
As a customer, yeah.
We don't like them. And I'm a customer here, and I like, to shop here, but I don't like this organization. So find a better autism organization if you really want to help. And, because there's a lot of good ones out there, and there probably are a lot of good cancer organizations. I can't say I've looked into that as much, but I know, in the autism community, there are a lot of good ones that actually do help people and do work for them, and they are nonprofits, and the people that work there are not rich, and not making 6-figure, 7-figure incomes. But this pink shit, Susan G. Komen and then the Avon, they're both like just multi-million-dollar companies that are making a ton of money and giving it back to the pharmaceutical industry. And I don't really know anybody who personally whoever benefits from them. If it's a good nonprofit, then somebody is going to directly receive money from them or receive help, money that will go to a treatment or something that they can't afford directly. And then, and then they're going to actually allow, if a person has the need, they should allow them to pick what treatments they want rather than just say, well, we're going to give you the standard of care, which most insurance companies would pay for anyway. So it's just stupid. It's the worst. I hate nonprofits. I hate these nonprofits, all of them. The UNICEF, I hate them all.
So once you learn about, and it's just even, common sense too, once you just start learning about how the business works, you can see that all of them are a sham, because it's like, well, I'm paying money for them to look for a cure for cancer by using or getting them to, or helping them in inventing a vaccine or some kind of pharmaceutical drug that they claim that it's going to get rid of cancer. Instead, once you realize how the body works and how the immune system works and how people acquire cancer, it's not even really, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not even necessary to have like lab researchers doing all the work. It's already been done.
Yeah.
It's just people try and suppress the cancer knowledge.
Yeah.
Or like look at Brzezinski and look at Gerson, and there've been other people who we've had the cure for cancer for years. It's nothing new. Which is mind blowing once you find out. It's mind blowing, and it's also heartbreaking. You think about the people that suffered and died because people are greedy, really, because other people are greedy, and they don't care. And was that you that was saying that they? It was somebody I heard this from, and I didn't really check into it myself, but there was a survey in Australia that they asked doctors if they were to get cancer, what would they do? And 90% of them said that they wouldn't do chemo or radiation or surgery.
Yeah, I heard that, but I don't know if I was the one that told you that first, but because I heard that from somebody else. But
yeah, but I was just like, well, how do they? That's just insanity to me. You're going to recommend something for your patients that you wouldn't even do yourself. But I don't know, I guess maybe they also don't realize that there's another, I don't know. I don't know what...
Maybe they don't realize that there's another way, but then...
But then I'm thinking, I thought about that, and then I caught myself, because I was like, well, what would they do if they didn't do cancer or radiation or surgery? Would they just wait it out, or, if they didn't know another way, would they try, I don't... What would they do? I wish the survey asked what they would do instead,
Right.
Or maybe some of them, or maybe some of them have the mentality. Maybe some of them have the mentality. They're just like, well, I'm not doing it. Too bad for you guys, suckers. Like I'm not going to do it. But even though all my patients die or become deformed or lose their dignity,
I know.
I'm not going to do it. But hey,
Yeah. Yeah, there was when I had a really traumatic experience with my second child, and it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was traumatic because I had health problems. It was traumatic just because the doctors love to stress me out. And one of the times I went to get an ultrasound, the ultrasound technician, who I don't even know if the guy was a doctor. I don't know what his trip was, but he brings me and my husband into this room, and he's like, "Oh, I need to talk to you guys. The baby is really big. He's like 9 pounds. You know, I think that you are going to have a C-section." And I'm like, "What?" And we were just kind of like, "Oh my God!" And then, you know, totally like nervous and freaked out. And then my husband says to him, "Okay, well, just because the baby's big, is there harm to her? Is he not in position? Is there some other reason?" And he said, "Well, you know, someone her size is probably not going to be able to deliver a baby that size because he's a big kid. He's a big baby." And, you know, and I was like towards the end, so I was close to 9 months, if not 9 months already. And anyway, so he tells us this, and so my husband says, "Well, if she were your sister, your wife, or your daughter, would you tell her to have what would you say? Would you say to just go get a C-section, or would you say to try and deliver it naturally?" And he said, "I would tell her to try and deliver it naturally." So what the fuck did you tell me to have a C-section? I swear to God. He admitted it. He said, "I would tell her to try and deliver it naturally." So why did you just tell me to have a C-section? And you
didn't have to have one.
Oh, no, I didn't have a C-section.
No, I know you did, but I'm just saying, I mean, what?
No, I didn't have to have a C-section at all. Even my doctor, who was a total crazy, God complex Nazi, was like, "No, you don't have to have a C-section." Even he was like, "Nah, that's not. I don't know what that guy's talking about." And, you know, he's like, "Yeah, I mean, maybe the baby's 9 pounds, whatever, it doesn't, but that's fine. You can deliver that." And, you know, and I did. I didn't have to, you know, I delivered it vaginally. But, yeah. Can you believe that? He actually admitted I mean, he actually admitted, yes, I wouldn't do it if it were somebody that I loved. I wouldn't recommend the same thing as I'm recommending to you right now.
Oh, my God. I mean, I guess I can't believe that he admitted it. But
I know.
I can't believe that he thought that.
Maybe the question threw him off to the point that he didn't, you know, he didn't think about it. Like I don't know how he ended up answering so honestly. That was shocking because it was like, well, you know, and then we walked out of there kind of like, well, what the fuck? Like, why is this guy, you know, even
working?
Why is he even trying to scare us? Yeah. If he knows that, you know, and then he was like, well, why wouldn't you recommend it, you know, to your sister? Because he's like, he didn't have any kids of his own. Okay, that was the other thing, too. Mm-hmm. He's like, I don't have any children, but my sister, you know, has some kids, and if it were her, I would tell her not to have a C-section because, you know, once you've had one, then they kind of force you each time afterwards to deliver via C-section because they don't want the baby breaking through the uterine wall, and there's also a lot of risks involved in having a C-section, which they never tell you about. This is what he tells us straight up, and we're like, what? Then why'd you put us through that? Why'd you make us like freak out and scare us and all this and that? It was just so bizarre. So I wonder, you know, it's like they spout off a script.
Yeah, totally. It's like they're slave to regulations and rules that they just, like, they don't think. It's that whole indoctrination shit. Like, I remember reading a thread a while ago on a pro-vaccine site, and one dude was like, I'm a physician, and I just want to say that the most dangerous thing about these anti-vaxxers is that they're well-informed. Like, you would hope so.
Yeah, right?
It's so dangerous. But I've listened to people. It seems like there's another one off the top of my head that I can't think of, but I've just listened to physicians, like, contradict themselves. And just look stupid. I'm like, but all those years of medical school, and for what? You know?
Right. It's just exactly, and that's what they do. It's like if you hold their feet to the fire and you make them actually explain what these treatments are and what these surgeries do and all of that, then sometimes they have to humanize themselves a little bit. But if you just accept their standard of care and their fear mongering, they're just so scripted that they might not even realize what they're putting you through. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't think that guy even realized that he was scaring the shit out of us until we asked him, and said, what would you do if it were you, if it were your family, if it were your wife, if it was this and that? And then he had to answer. It's really weird how they but I think the same is probably true for these doctors that you were mentioning who say, well, I wouldn't give chemo to my family and they wouldn't do it because they know better. They've seen how the patients respond and all of that. Yeah. But then they still just give each patient the same script. It's like that without, getting humanizing.
Do you think that those doctors know, too, and they're afraid of the ridicule and the backlash that they're going to go through if they were to step out of the box and say, hey, even though I'm an oncologist, I believe that, I don't believe in doing chemotherapy and radiation. And I believe that juice and, I don't know, whatever other methods, baking soda, whatever, lifestyle, change is more effective. That, a lot of, they get ridiculed and picked on. I think that a lot of it, maybe, there's some people that know stuff, because I've known people that are grown people that know these things, and yet, we've been in conversations or maybe a party or situation where people would be talking about stuff, and I would bring up, alternative truths or stuff, and the person next to me knows about it too, but they don't want to look bad because they know, like, I'll be looking bad on my own, but, they don't want to bring up that, that they concur because they're afraid of looking, like, ridiculous or people are going to ridicule them. And my philosophy is all the stuff that we're coming across, I'm like, well, but at least I can live with myself. If I can tell them, and if they don't do it, fine. But at least I know that I told them, and I didn't keep it in because I was afraid of being ridiculed,
Right.
Because that would even be worse if I knew about vaccines, or if I knew about vaccines and I didn't tell anybody, and then their child got injured. I could live with myself a little more had I told them. I'd still feel bad, but at least I tried,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's true. Yeah, good point. So I think we're going to take a quick break here because we're going to get straight to Ty Bollinger, our buddy Ty, and he is of cancertruth.net. We are going to talk to him after the short player break, so please stay with us.
Hello, thanks for having me on your radio. Even though we're not from a famous rock and roll band, if we were, even though we sound a little like we are, we definitely wear a Conspiracy Realist t-shirt, because they're gear, aren't they? Oh yeah, they're really gear. I want to write a song about them. Conspiracy Realist t-shirts at truthatease.com. I gotta think of the middle eight. Shop.truthatease.com. What does that mean? It's the internet. What's that? I don't know. It's a net. It's between things. Shop.truthatease.com. What's that? It's where you get Conspiracy Realist t-shirts. Oh, gear.
Hey, it's Chris from ChrisBeatCancer.com. Wanted to tell you why I will not be racing for the cure. We're coming up on September, which is the big Susan G. Komen, Pink Ribbons, Race for the Cure, propaganda, media bonanza. And before that happens, I'd like to get this video out there and just give you some food for thought. No pun intended. I don't really support cancer charities, and this is why. First of all, people who support cancer charities are great people. If you have given money or raced for the cure or bought a pink product, you did it because you care and you want to help, and that's wonderful. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is where the money goes when you give to a cancer charity. Most cancer charities, a lot of them have been set up by pharmaceutical companies. And so what they do is they funnel money to the pharmaceutical industry. And you notice they all say the same thing. Oh, the cure is right around the corner. We're one step closer to the cure with your help. Well, the reality is they're not one step closer. They're not any closer to the cure now than they were 50 years ago, really. I mean, the survival rates, the 5-year survival for cancer is virtually unchanged for almost all cancers in the last 50 years. Childhood leukemia has improved, and lymphomas have improved in testicular cancer. But just those three, all the other cancers, breast, colon, brain, liver, lung, all those cancers, pancreas, the survival rates haven't improved. So anyway, back to the cancer charities. So what happens is a lot of these charities, especially Komen, a massive amount of their budget goes to administration and salaries, marketing, and promotion, and a very small percentage actually goes to cancer research. Okay, so you could go to Komen Watch, Google the website Komen Watch, and you can get all the statistics about Komen specifically, and they're not great. You'll probably be very unimpressed with what they do with the money they raise. And even the money that goes to cancer research, even that small percentage, I think for Komen it's like 18%. I may be wrong. Just check with Komen Watch on that. But whatever it is, the money that they're sending to cancer research is going straight to the pharmaceutical companies. And what are they doing with it? They are trying to research and patent a drug to sell back to you. So what you're doing is you are charitably giving your money to a company that is using that to fund research on a product they're going to patent and sell back to you. It'd be different if they were going to develop research to treat people for free. Now, St. Jude is a great example of a cancer charity that, although I don't really agree with their method, with the chemotherapy method, the fact is they're treating patients for free, and that is amazing. That's a charity that's worth giving to. But any other cancer charity that's just funding pharmaceutical research, all you're doing is giving a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar prescription drug company free research money. They don't need your research money. It's a scam. It's a joke. They're laughing at you because they're laughing at basically, you fool, you're giving us money to research drugs we're going to patent and make billions on, you know? So anyway, that's what's really happening behind the scenes. So that's why I don't run for the cure. I don't buy pink products or yellow ribbon products or any of that kind of stuff. There are a couple good cancer charities. The American Anti-Cancer Institute is one that I support. Another really good charity is called Breast Cancer Action. They are definitely worth checking out. Look at their website. They're definitely worth supporting. And of course, you know, again, St. Jude is great because they treat people for free. I mean, you know, even though I'm not crazy about their methods, and it's not a method I would want for my child, they're doing it for free. So that's amazing. So anyway, just something to think about when this big push and this big promotion for all the pink Susan G. Komen stuff is coming around. And really, it's gotten ridiculous. Did you see last year the Susan G. Komen pink Kentucky Fried Chicken buckets? If you didn't see it, I promise you, Google it. It's real. They had pink Kentucky Fried Chicken buckets. If anything spells cancer, or the fight against cancer like fried chicken, I mean, I don't know what does. So, I drove by a pink garbage can, literally. Pink garbage can with the ribbon on it. I think things are just getting a little bit out of hand. Are we going too far with the pink products? When they're on everything, they're on makeup that's got toxic ingredients. So you're going to buy toxic makeup to help support cancer research. I don't know. I could go on and on. Anyway, thanks for listening. If you want to subscribe to my channel, do it. You can also find out a lot more information about me and what I did to beat cancer using nutrition and natural therapies at my website, chrisbeatcancer.com. Peace.
Welcome back to Truth or Talk. On today's show, we have Mr. Ty Bollinger. Ty is a certified public accountant, but after watching 7 close family members die of cancer, Mr. Bollinger decided to take a closer look at the disease. Ty spent 15 years researching the disease and trying to find alternative cancer treatments. His book, Cancer, Step Outside the Box, is accumulation of those years of work and research. Ty is now an advocate of health freedom, and he spends much of his time educating others on natural therapies and the dangers of traditional cancer treatments. Please welcome to the show, Ty Bollinger. Hi, Ty.
Hey,
Hi, Ty.
April. Hey, Virstyne. How you doing?
Good. How
Great
about
to be on the
you?
show. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Glad it's back.
Yeah.
Glad we could hook up despite the traffic problems.
Yeah, I know. Glad I made it.
Okay. So Ty, tell us about your journey from accountant to cancer crime fighter.
Yeah, cancer, Batman and Robin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I do a radio show with Robert Scott Bell each week, and I said, look, we can be Batman and Robin just as long as you're Robin and you get to wear the white tights. Or the yellow tights. Yeah, it's kind of a strange journey because I would have never dreamed back 23 years ago, when I graduated at a graduate school, that I would be doing this. But I am a CPA, and I have a master's in tax from Baylor University, believe it or not. And when I graduated from Baylor, not many people had heard of them, but now they're pretty popular because of their sports teams. But, I never thought when I got out and I started working with Ernst & Young that I would be doing this, but the research skills that I developed at Baylor as I was getting my master's degree in taxation really paid off in another area, and that was when my father got sick in 1996. He was diagnosed July the 1st of 96 of cancer, and he died 25 days later. And it was at that point that I started doing some research on cancer, because it just did not make sense to me that we had a healthy man that was dead in just over 3 weeks when he really didn't show any symptoms when he went into the hospital other than he had a stomachache. He wasn't losing weight, he wasn't having headaches, no digestive problems really other than just aches. And so he goes in, they thought he was, had gallstones, so they were going to go remove the gallstones, and it turns out that he had cancerous tumors, and so they said, well, the tumors are so pervasive, we just need to cut his whole stomach out. And at that point, we didn't know what to do. You kind of trust your doctor, and you figure the doctor knows best. So we said, well, then we need to take his stomach out. And so we did. And over the course of the next 25 days after the surgery, Dad basically bled to death from the surgery. He had 19 blood transfusions. They couldn't sew him up. They couldn't keep him from leaking. And finally, after they kind of gave up because the surgery was botched, they said, well, we can make him comfortable. And they put him on a bunch of morphine and Demerol and basically killed him. Not intentionally, but just they didn't know anything else to do. That was the protocol. You cut the stomach out. If you can't get the surgery under control, there's nothing else to do. The patient's going to bleed to death. You make them comfortable. I mean, that's just kind of the protocol. And so, I don't blame those doctors at all. I hope it doesn't sound like I do, because I really don't. They were just doing what they'd been taught. Yeah. And unfortunately, what they've been taught is way wrong when it comes to treating cancer, and that really showed me how little modern medical doctors know about treating cancer. And it was at that time I started doing research, and over the next 7 years after Dad died, I lost both granddads, grandmom, uncle, cousin, and then finally my mom to cancer. And it was at that point I started putting all these years of research together into a book. And it took me a couple years to publish my first book, Cancer, Step Outside the Box, in 2006. So that's kind of the skinny of it, as to how a CPA morphed into a cancer researcher. It was really because of the tragedies that I'd had in my family. And the way trying to connect the dots here, the reason that I mentioned my master's in tax is that one of the skills that I learned when I was in school was how to summarize the Internal Revenue Code. And I figured, hey, if I can do that, I can read medical journals and medical articles and summarize them. And so that was where I got the idea for doing a book.
Oh, wow. Yeah, April told me that you were an accountant. I was like, oh, my God, I never would have thought. That's just like the wildest thing.
Yeah, but I won't admit it if you ask me. I'll deny it. Yeah, I am an accountant.
Second question, do you do your own taxes?
I do.
And
I do my own taxes.
Okay.
And I'm actually still I still have my CPA license here in the state of Texas. I've had it. Once you get the CPA, you pass the CPA exams pretty in depth. You don't want to have to take it again. So I've kept my license all these years, even though probably in excess of 95% of my time now is spent doing cancer research and speaking and radio shows and TV shows and writing books and so forth. I still have my active license here because I don't want to have to take the test again. I'd probably fail it now.
So Ty, I'm curious because just you talking about that. This is something Virstyne and I have asked a lot of our guests on our show before, because we're kind of fascinated by why certain people have the inclination to sort of dig deeper than others. It's like, so in other words, I mean, many people have family members die of cancer and don't go into sort of the deep, dark rabbit holes that you've taken to then really, really, truly understand it. So what do you think it is about you? Is it just you're curious, you're inquisitive, do you have an intellectual interest in kind of understanding it? Or?
Yeah, I'm just way smarter than most people. No, for me it was really a personal thing. I lost everyone that was close to me of cancer. Right. When Mom died in 2004, I'm 46 now, so that was 10 years ago. So I was 36 years old at that time, and at that point, other than my grandmother, who died in 2009, I was the oldest person left of my whole family. Everyone else had died. Wow. And so that was just too freaky for me. And one of the things that I really began to understand as I did research, and I read the stories, and I read the testimonials of people that had used these treatments and had been persecuted, and the doctors that had been run out of the country and even thrown in jail had their lives wrecked, their practices ruined because they were using these natural treatments for cancer. I began to see that this is a huge concerted effort to suppress these treatments that's being made. Some might even call it a conspiracy. And people that would say, "Oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist," I would say, "Well, what you need to do, sir or ma'am, is go back to the Fitzgerald report of 1953. That was a Senate investigatory committee over 60 years ago that determined that at that time, and these are their actual words, that there was an active conspiracy to suppress natural cancer treatments in the United States." So that was 60 years ago, and the Congress of the U.S. determined, yeah, there is a conspiracy to suppress, and I saw it, bright and clear when I was researching, and I decided I wanted to shed some light on it and help people to understand that they do actually have options, and that their parents or their brother or sister or wife or husband does not necessarily have to die of cancer just because they're diagnosed.
And before, can we back up just a little bit, and then as we're talking about cancer, I realize that a lot of people don't know what cancer really is. So can you just tell us what is it? What's cancer?
Cancer is it really depends upon who you talk to. So if you talk to the average medical doctor in the United States today, he would say or she would say it's a lump or a bump. And I got that from G. Edward Griffin. I interviewed Ed for the Truth About Cancer series, and he was describing the differences in what cancer is depending upon who you talk to. And he said, conventional treatment says it's a lump or a bump. What it really is it's uncontrolled cell growth. I don't think anybody would debate that. But what cancer really is a failure of the immune system to detect cancerous cells, which are just cells that have kind of gone rogue, that have developed a different kind of energy respiratory mechanism by which they are anaerobic instead of aerobic. They don't use oxygen. They ferment sugar to produce energy. Something has happened to those cells, whether it's environmental toxicity or DNA damage or whatever it is. There's a lot of different theories as to what causes this, but it's pretty much a consensus that that's what happens, is that the cells turn bad. We all have cells that are going cancerous on us every day. Everyone that's listening has cancer, but a healthy immune system is able to control that cancer, and you're not diagnosed with anything that's life-threatening. It's just kind of a normal, everyday process. But when that immune system is compromised, the cancer can get a foothold, and it becomes a very dangerous situation in the body. So really, cancer is a failure of the immune system. It's what it is. It's not the lump or the bump. The lump or the bump is a symptom that your immune system has failed. So, and so I guess that then we can get into the difference between the way alternative or natural treatments treat cancer versus conventional treatments or traditional treatments. Because the natural treatments would treat the actual cause, which is the failure of the immune system, whereas the traditional treatments, they treat the symptom. So they cut the tumor out, or they radiate the tumor, or they poison the tumor with chemotherapy. But they really haven't gotten at the root cause, which is the failure of the immune system. And that's why those treatments, the traditional treatments, fall way short. And it's kind of funny. I was interviewing Dr. Rashid Buttar in North Carolina, and for the Truth About Cancer series, and we got into a discussion about how funny it is, or how ironic it is, that traditional treatments are called traditional, when really they've been around for less than 100 years, and alternative treatments are called alternative, when really they are the traditional treatments. They've been around for thousands of years. And it's just now in the last century that traditional treatments have come around, but we call them traditional, and we call the natural treatments alternative, when really it's kind of a bastardization of the language. It's actually exactly the opposite.
It's because we're living in the brave new world. We really are.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
Double speak. Totally. Yeah. So, well, why did you decide to take all this information that you know now and then make it into a docu-series that you have out now called The Truth About Cancer? Why a docu-series?
Yeah, well, I think we're the first docu-series ever. I think we coined that term. We'd never seen the term, but we said it's a documentary miniseries, so we're going to call it a docu-series. There may have been people there, but we didn't snag it from anybody. I mean, we just started calling it that, so we never heard of a docu-series, but we thought that was fitting. What got me interested was a few months back, well, 6 months back now, I was approached by a couple guys that had a history with dealing in natural medicine, one of them, and my other partner was really an expert internet marketer. And they approached me and said, "We want you to be the face guy for this thing we want to do." And they told me, they pitched me on this deal, and they said, "We want you to be the guy that is the expert, that drives around, flies around, interviews the doctors, interviews the celebrities, interviews the patients and whatever." And it's kind of like the almost like a reality TV type deal where we follow you as you go to get the truth. I said, wow, that sounds really interesting. I haven't ever heard of anything like that being done before. I think it would hit a demographic of people that would not necessarily maybe read a book or watch a webinar. So, yeah, let's do it. So we did. And in the span of about 6 weeks, I traveled, gosh, you want to hear my travels? I can probably get them in.
Yeah.
Okay. So we started out in Atlanta, Georgia, and we did a few interviews there with different doctors and patients. We traveled up to Columbia, South Carolina, did a couple interviews there, traveled up to Huntersville, North Carolina, and we interviewed at Dr. Batar's office there and did several patients and some autism patients there for another deal that he was doing, and some of his cancer patients, some of his patients that have recovered, over a decade out from diagnosis. We flew from there over to San Diego. I was actually a keynote speaker out at the Cure to Cancer conference out there in San Diego at the end of April, and while we were there, it turns out that several of the people that we wanted to interview for our series were actually there speaking, so it worked out great. I was able to interview them at the hotel. They were actually speaking at that same conference. So did about 5 or 6 interviews that day. Next day we rented a car, traveled up to Carlsbad, interviewed Dr. Patrick Quillen. Went that afternoon to, that was on a Sunday afternoon, went on up to L.A. and met up with Ian Jacklin and a good buddy of mine from about 20 years ago, Mark Anthony Cage. He's an actor out there in Hollywood. And interviewed Ian about cancer and hemp. And next day we went to Thousand Oaks, interviewed G. Edward Griffin and Shannon Knight. She's a cancer survivor, breast cancer survivor. Drove to Las Vegas, interviewed Dr. Darrell Wolfe and Jeffrey Smith and Dr. Keith Scott Mumby. Flew to Chicago, interviewed Dr. Charles Majors, flew back home for a day, flew back out to Kansas City to interview Webster Kerr, the cancer tutor. We flew over to Florida, interviewed Robert Scott Bell, Casey Krejci, Paul Bertiero with the water, flew back home for a day, and then flew back out to New York City to interview Dr. Nick Gonzalez, Dr. Linda Isaacs, and then finally the last interview was Jason Vale, who is the man that was thrown in jail for 5 years for selling apricot seeds, and then we flew home. So that was our trip. Sounds pretty exciting, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds exhausting.
Exhausting and exciting.
Exciting, right.
It was very exhausting, very exciting, and we did all that in a period of about 3 weeks, and then we got back. We had 2 weeks to edit, and then we took all the stuff up, and we had the week-long miniseries, which literally, I mean, there were a couple of episodes that we just got the episode edited and uploaded within 15 minutes before it was supposed to air live. And I mean, we had like 50,000 viewers a couple of nights to this thing, and so we have, that many people waiting, and, we didn't make them, the only thing that we screwed up really was the first night. We had so many people that hit the website that it crashed our servers. And
wow.
That was kind of a boondoggle. We weren't expecting that many people. But then by the next night, we had 3 or 4 new servers up, and we had kind of fortified our operation to where we could handle the traffic. And then from then on out, there was no glitches. But we really literally were within about 10 minutes or 15 minutes on a couple of episodes of not having them done. They were just being edited that same day. So it was just really by our own bootstraps. We barely made it.
You know what though? That's so good that you had that many people. That you didn't expect as many people. You had more than you expected, basically. I think that's a really good sign.
Yeah, it was really great, and we got such 99.9% positive feedback. I mean, it was just a huge response. So what we're doing now is I'm already working on episode 2 for the fall. We're going to probably end up having a 10 or 11-day docuseries that does 11 days in a row, 1 hour a night. And we're adding interviews. I just interviewed Dr. Brzezinski, and we got a whole bunch more doctors coming. Yeah.
All right. That's awesome. I'm so excited. Anyway, so because you're doing this docuseries, you have a book, or you have a book out, and you're spreading the truth about how to cure cancer, which I think it's immensely empowering to people. So you think that everybody on the planet would be yippee-ki-yay, you're curing cancer, and be happy. But I've read blogs that bash people who spread the truth about natural cancer cure.
Oh, yeah.
So what are your thoughts? I mean, it really shocked me, So what are your thoughts on that, though?
There's a lot. There's a lot of people out there that are basically. A lot of them are paid trolls. I mean, they're paid disinfo people, and they're out there to attack. And you can do a search for me, and you can find out that I am a quack.
Are you on Quack Watch?
Unfortunately, not yet. I'm a little bit upset that I'm not.
Yeah, because I think that's when you've made it, when you're on Quack Watch.
I obviously have not made it yet, but
when you're doing some real impact to the to the medical community.
Yeah, but it's out. I mean, there's just a lot of paid trolls that are out there that bash anybody, and you can tell that they're bashers, that they're all kind of getting the same marching orders, because you can read different people, different names, but writing almost word for word the same stuff. It's like they get, email blasts from their evil controllers and say, here, this is what you say. And it's almost like they're just copying and pasting scripts.
Yeah, it does. It does sound like that. It's like, are you talking to a robot?
Yeah. Yeah, but that's okay. I mean, it's kind of part of the territory. You expect that, because it is a big business we're going up against. We're going up against big pharma. We're cutting into their revenues, and they don't like it. And I've gotten some death threats several years ago when I first published the book. Boy, I got some threats. I haven't gotten any lately, but when I first put the book out there, I got several. And I think that's kind of protocol. They'll threaten you and just see who will back down. Just kind of try to scare you. Mm-hmm. And when they threaten to kill you and your children, it kind of shakes you up for a while. But you got to keep doing what you're doing and doing what's right.
Oof, I know we're just like, hey, you have my respect, because I don't know, we just have a talk show, but I don't know, man. The whistleblowers we interview, they just surprise me and inspire me every time, because I don't know what I'd do if I was in that situation.
Well, to me, at first it kind of freaked me out, but now it just kind of makes me mad, and so I just keep it going harder. And I think that's the best thing to do, because they, whoever they are, and I don't even know who they are, but the people that are at the top of the pyramid, the controllers, whatever you want to say, as Ian Jackson says, the 1%, whatever, whoever they are, they really like to make people back down and feel fear. They thrive on fear and making you afraid. And so when we're bold and we stand up against the tyranny and against the big pharmaceuticals, that makes them want to back off, because they're cowards is what they are. And so when we stand up against them, they'll find somebody else.
I was curious, or I heard you on an interview. I forgot what interview it was, but you said something, before you were awake to all of this, that this is the quote that you said. You said those people who question our government in a time of war should be locked up and put in prison without trial. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was really big of you to admit that you said that and that you thought that way. Do you have sympathy for people who are asleep?
I do, yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah, I do, because I've been there, and we're all part of this matrix, not literal, but a matrix where it's an information matrix where we are constantly brainwashed, constantly spoon-fed what to believe, encouraged not to think for ourselves, encouraged just to go with the party line, go with the official story. And so I was there, I still remember that. That was after after Bush Jr. Invaded Iraq and Afghanistan. So it's like probably 2002 time period. So just 12 years ago, that was me. It was at work, and I still remember that my boss came in the office, and we were talking about the wars, and I said that. I said, yeah. He said something about, what about people's constitutional rights? which is like what I talk about now. But I said, you know what? You don't have any. In a time of war, you don't have them. People that disagree with the government, that protest the war, whatever, should be locked up. And that came out of my mouth. And it was only a few years later that I woke up and realized that I'd been in a slumber and had been really, I claimed to be a conservative. I was a conservative Republican, but what I've learned is that conservative Republican I don't want to be associated with anymore. What I am now is a constitutional libertarian. Government should stay out of our business. We should follow the Constitution and leave people alone to live their lives the way they please. But really, I was just regurgitating the party line, because if you watch Fox News, and nothing against Fox News, I'm really grateful that they had me on a couple of times in the last 6 months to talk about natural cancer treatments and hemp. But same time, if you watch most of the shows on Fox News, they're nothing but a bunch of neocons spouting the neocon agenda, just like if you watch MSNBC or CNN, that's the Democrats, not libertarians, but the Democrats, the liberals, spouting their party lines. And really, when you get to the top, they're all controlled by the same controllers. There's not really a lot of difference because, for instance, with some of the things that Obama has done, we have all the conservatives up in arms against some of the things that he's done that are unconstitutional, which I despise some of the things he's done because he's violating the Constitution. But at the same time, Bush did the same thing, violated the Constitution. I despise the way he violated the Constitution, but the conservative Republicans were in favor of him. Why? Because he's got an R after his name. He can do the same thing that Barack Obama does, and they love him and they hate Obama, but they do the same actions. To me, that's hypocritical.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, and that's when you realize that there is no party line really. That they're kind of just, cut from the same cloth. Yeah. It's like the false right left paradigm. You start to figure that whole thing out.
Yeah.
And then, but that's kind of what you're describing. I guess is what I was sort of getting at earlier when I was asking you, like, what was different about you? Because the people that we talk to, a lot of them are kind of like that. You go from one extreme to another in a way. And it's just sort of curious that I think it takes sort of some level of courage to be like, you know what, I was so dead wrong, and this is how I thought, and I can't believe I thought that way. Yeah. Some people will just stick with it, even if they kind of see things that are wrong, just because they don't want to.
They're stubborn, or they have to come to terms with how mean they've been to other people. Because even when I was asleep, I don't think I was that mean to. I don't remember being that mean to other people. I was just like, okay, they can believe that if they want to, and I'll just believe what I believe. But I never called them names or stopped being their friend or, tried to spread rumors about them or attack them. Like I've come across some amazing people doing what we do, but every once in a while we get these people that are really just mean-spirited. And I think sometimes to admit that you have to come to terms with that, and I wonder if that's why some people are so stubborn, because they really have to make amends and think about how they acted,
Yeah.
Right. You have to introspect, I think.
I think you're right. And I think it's also difficult for many people to just come to grasp, to even admit to themselves that they have been pretty much lied to and given a snow job for their entire life. About almost everything that we've been told has been lies, and half-truths, lies, whatever you want to call them. And we've been misled in so many areas that it's really hard to admit to yourself that you've fallen for this your whole life. And I had to. It wasn't easy. The thing that woke me up was after I wrote Cancer Step Outside the Box and I published it, Dr. Greg, a physician out in California, emailed me, and he said he wanted to send me a DVD about 9/11. And I said, well, sure, send it to me. What's it about? And he said, well, the government was behind it. And I said, well, you're crazy. That's the first thing I told him. You're crazy. Why did I tell him that? Well, because that's what we've been taught to call people that happen to differ with the party line. You're nuts. You're crazy. You're a conspiracy theorist. You're cuckoo. You're cray-cray, whatever, call names. And so that's what I did. I was a good sheeple there at that time. I called names just like I'd been taught to, even though I didn't know that I'd been taught that. That's what you do. You call names. But we watched the DVD, and he was right, and it was clear that there were forces within the government behind 9/11. We've been lied to about that. We've been lied to about almost every event in the last 50 years. And so that was what woke me up. And I realized at that point, one of the things that he said to me stuck with me. I called him crazy. He said, look, well, you thought I was sane enough to quote me multiple times in your book. So if you think I'm crazy, if you think that I am crazy, at least have the decency to watch the DVD first, and then you can call me names. Because, see, a lot of people won't allow themselves to even go there.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
I'm not going to watch this. I don't need to watch this, you know?
Right.
Like I was looking at an interview, I think it was Dr. McCullough was interviewing Andrew Wakefield, and Andrew Wakefield was talking about how he was attacked by this doctor, and Andrew was like, well, did you read my paper? He's like, I don't need to read it, you know? People have that frame of mind, like, oh, well, I don't even need to. You know, and it's sad because I think that like that's part of the disinformation too, because they know they go after people's egos sometimes. They know that, you know, they won't the information's out there, and they'll have websites like Quackwatch and other like Medscape or Science-Based Medicine to like write on these people to tell other people not to look at their stuff, when all the people really have to do is look at the other side, but people don't, you know. Yeah,
and that's common. As a matter of fact, you know, just one instance of that. Remember when the BP oil spill happened? So that, you know, that's about 2009, I guess. It's been 5 years. But when that happened, this is public record now that BP went out, and I think there was another, maybe I think it was Halliburton maybe as well, and they bought up all of the search terms that would possibly relate to the BP oil spill, and then they put AdWords out on the sides and created all these websites to where people started investigating it. They would go to these paid these paid searches to the propaganda websites, and they would read that there was nothing to worry about. That, you know, they would read the official story, and that was just one instance, and that's happened over and over and over.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm sure not just on that, on a lot of other things.
No, not just on that. It happened with Oklahoma City. It happened with Waco. It happened with 9/11. It even happened with the JFK assassination way back in '63.
Well, you're certainly right about that, and that's so much easier because we have the internet, so it's easier to put the information out there, but it's also easier to disinform the public as well. It's just we're just inundated with it. And you know, on this show we do talk about things like that, really controversial stuff, and sometimes we tread a little lightly when we get people on to talk about things like eugenics, and we were sort of interested and surprised to see how conscious you were about such a depopulation agenda. So where did you come to sort of realize that was what might be going on?
Well, I mean, it's hidden in plain sight, right? So if you look at the Georgia Guidestones, you look at the goal of the elite, I call them the scumbags, but the elite is what people call them, the global elite, the global cockroaches.
Yeah.
Their goal is to keep population to 500 million worldwide. So, you know, we got over 7 billion now. So that means that by necessity they need to have some kind of techniques to depopulate. And so if you look at what's going on, it really is hidden in plain sight. And not only the Guidestones that I'm talking about, but just the way that they're doing it. So they tell us that they're fluoridating our water. They tell us it's good for us, but the studies show it's bad for us, and it's killing us, and it's causing sterility and osteosarcoma and bone cancers and all these other problems. But they tell us about it. They spray pesticides on our foods, and they tell us about it. But the fact of the matter is that a study just came out that showed that these pesticides are now being linked to another kind of cancer. This is about 8 or 9 now. This is non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I just read the study today. They tell us that they're genetically modifying our food, but it's for our good. But really, the studies are showing that it causes sterility and cancer. They're getting us to willingly eat, drink, breathe substances that are killing us while they're telling us that they're good for us. And so it really is this whole eugenics depopulation agenda is hidden in plain sight. They're getting us to abort babies by the millions. Now, whether you think that abortion's a woman's right to choose or not, the fact of the matter is that, you know, hundreds of millions of babies have been aborted over the worldwide over the last 40 years. And at the heart of Planned Parenthood was Margaret Sanger, who was a known eugenicist that believed that Jews and black people and all Asians should be killed. So, and she's who founded Planned Parenthood with the funding of the Rockefeller family. So, you know, regardless of where you feel about it, the fact of the matter is that at the roots of the Planned Parenthood movement was a known eugenicist, probably one of the most evil women that's ever lived.
No. And so when you talk about these things and you go into those subjects, or you go into the 9/11 and you kind of make these connections, do you ever worry that other people are going to say, oh, you should have just stuck to cancer, like you shouldn't be talking about these other things, or you shouldn't go down those holes? And so what motivates you why don't you just stick to cancer and not like get into these other issues?
Because as somebody that I believe I would be considered a truth seeker. I mean, that's kind of my main goal, is to seek after the truth. Then you can't just stop at cancer and health, because it's all part of a concerted agenda. It's all part of an agenda of sickness and death and controlled information and official stories. And so it's not just the cancer. And so I really started diving down that rabbit hole after I published the cancer book, and I began to realize, man, there's so many other things we're being lied to about. I can't just talk about cancer, because it naturally branches into other things. So, for instance, I'm talking about cancer, and did you know the American Cancer Society was founded by the Rockefellers in 1913? Okay, so right, but most people don't. But you get back and you realize, okay, the Rockefellers founded the American Cancer Society. The Rockefellers were behind the American Medical Association and the Flexner Report that has now resulted in doctors that learn only drugs in medical schools. And then you start learning about the Rockefeller influence in eugenics in Nazi Germany. And then you look at Nazi Germany, the way that Operation Paperclip, we brought all of these people that were war criminals over to run our pharmaceutical companies. And so you can't really just say, oh, I'm just going to talk about cancer and health, because the rabbit hole goes too much deeper, and before you know it, you've really neglected a lot of areas of importance that will help to wake up people by avoiding those topics. And before I published a book a couple years ago, well, actually, it seems like a couple years ago, it was only about 10 months ago, Monumental Myths. And in Monumental Myths, I deal with all these other topics, not just the medical myths, but I talk about 9/11 in Oklahoma City and Waco, and I talk about the assassinations, supposed assassinations of Vince Foster and Gary Webb and Pat Tillman and so forth, and hit all these controversial topics. And the response was 99% positive. It was huge. I wondered how people would react to it, but it was really mostly positive. And people, what it's done is I've realized that different topics wake people up in different ways. And so while 9/11 might be something that woke me up, I've heard back from people that have read my book and said, your explanation of Waco woke me up, or your explanation of Ruby Ridge woke me up, or your explanation of fluoride in the water woke me up, or different things for different people. So it just takes different triggers, I think, to get us waking up out of the matrix. And so that was really the purpose of me publishing Monumental Myths, was to get out there and wake up people in any way I possibly could. And I've seen a huge response to it.
And just real quick, you talk about the assassinations, and I was, a while ago, I was reading this essay about Max Gerson and or Gerson therapy, and this person was trying to debunk that Gerson therapy wasn't effective and this and that. And then there was, I'm not kidding, there was probably in the hundreds of comments of people mostly saying, I have cured myself of using Gerson therapy. I don't doubt what you're saying, but it worked for us. Blah blah blah. It was just there were so many people. So have you ever gone? How do you feel about his death? Do you think it was suspicious?
I think it was, but at the same time, I haven't really researched it quite enough to say that I'm certain about it. But it sure, some of the circumstances, if I remember reading properly, were pretty odd. But that Gerson's not the only one. You look at the deaths of many doctors over the years. You look at the way that they were imprisoned. You look at the death of Royal Raymond Rife. He ended up dying of a drug overdose because the AMA basically ruined his life. So even people that may not have died under suspicious circumstances, a lot of them died because they just gave up, because their lives were just wrecked by the medical mafia.
That's still a form of murder. That's like spiritual murder, It
is. And I interviewing Dr. Brzezinski last week. They're so tired. They've been fighting for 20 years now. And they spent millions of dollars fighting the medical mafia that has limitless pockets. They have money to burn, and they don't have to worry about medical bills in the tens of millions. But the normal person does. And Brzezinski, one of the things that I was really impressed with last week when I interviewed Dr. Brzezinski at his office, I met his wife Barbara. She gave me a big hug and showed me all these pictures in their office of brain cancer patients that are now 20, 25 years out. And
wow.
She was literally in tears as she showed me these pictures of babies that had faces that were so contorted and so swollen from brain tumors that they didn't even look human. and then pictures 20, 25 years later of that same baby after the baby had grown up and is now getting married and is married with children. And, you know, the way that they've affected these people's lives that were given death sentences and are alive, you know, decades later. I mean, I could just see their whole heart is doing nothing but helping people. That's all they care about, is that people would live. And so anything that people read about Brzezinski, that he's in it for the money or this or that, it's all lies. It's nothing. None of it's true.
Well, you know, has anybody ever talked about putting together a class action lawsuit to sue? I don't know whether they would sue maybe like the medical establishments, because I think about these doctors that sacrifice. I mean, to be a doctor, you have to start preparing when you're young, like in middle school, you know, high school, junior high, because it's so competitive now. Then, you know, you go to get into college and you get into medical school, then you have residency.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're sacrificing your social life, your family, your friends, fun, whatever. And then, you know, you're being taught the wrong information. And you're spending like thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on top of that. And I just feel like it's such a crime. And I've always wondered, has anybody talked about getting a class action suit together to sue the universities or to sue whoever's responsible for teaching them misinformation?
You know, I don't know if there are or not, but that is a great idea. I know many medical doctors that are now no longer practicing because, you know, I'm trying to think who it was that I spoke to recently, had gotten a medical degree, gone to medical school, done the internship and whatnot, and was getting out and about to start practicing medicine and realized, you know what, all I'm doing is pushing drugs. I'm not healing people. I'm not making people healthy. I'm not even helping them stay less sick. I'm really perpetuating illness with all these drugs. And he's now, if I remember right, he said he's a cook now. He went through medical school and now he's a cook because he just realized that, what's the Hippocratic Oath? First, do no harm. And he realized that every day he was breaking that oath by prescribing drugs to people. And he said, I just couldn't do it anymore. So I know there's a lot of doctors out there that have realized that what they thought they were getting into medicine for and what actual modern medicine does are two things that are totally separate, two totally different things. They've been hoodwinked.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible for everybody. It's terrible for the doctors. It's terrible for the patients. You know, I don't know. It's just devastating. If that was me, I would be absolutely devastated. You know.
Oh yeah, especially in light of the fact that you're probably in debt, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just.
It's essentially brainwashing. You know, we had Dr. Rima Lebo on our show, and we asked her that question, and we were so I guess I hadn't heard it quite put this way before, but she said that they use forms of like torture by sleep deprivation and ridicule and all these sort of things that you might see in a fraternity.
For isolation too, and isolation and stuff. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Exactly, and these types of things. If you step out of line, you're ridiculed by the uppers, and they then learn how to ridicule the lowers once they're teaching residents and so on. And so it sounds like a cult, you know, like they kind of in cult indoctrination. And we were like, whoa, I never heard it put that way. But now that you think about it, you know, even when you watch shows like ER or something, you see a little bit of that. You go, oh, that's just kind of normally how they do it. But it hadn't occurred to me that that's how they're brainwashed. Yeah,
they are, and that's completely accurate. I've got many friends that are medical doctors, and I've heard that confirmed by a couple of them that said that it really seemed kind of like almost a mix between fraternity hazing and military hazing when they were in med school. You know, getting the silent treatment and just what you just described in order to stay in line to just basically not question, just to memorize, regurgitate what you're being taught, but not really to think.
Yeah, you know, Suzanne Humphreys also made the comment. I heard her describe it as like being in a gang, you know, because when she came to the realization she had about vaccines, you know, she felt like she was like I was in a gang because, you know, people were looking at her sideways, and she had, you know, been a respectable doctor, and she can't even question this, and people were treating her like she was like subhuman. It was, you know, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
I heard you talked about chemtrails. We talked about chemtrails in an interview. Sure. What effect are they having on our health, and can be contributors to cancer?
Well, you know, we've done. I think it was Ed Griffin that was one of the editors or the producers for What in the World Do They Spray, which is a documentary on chemtrails. And so they went into the way that they tested the snow in places that there should be no heavy metal contamination. There's no plants within thousands of miles, but they're finding high levels of aluminum in the snow. They're finding high levels of barium, and they're finding high levels of lead and other heavy metals. They're also finding, in one case, I think it was desiccated bovine erythrocytes, with red blood cells from cows, that are desiccated. So they're being dumped through chemtrails in the air. How does that affect the immune system? Well, it definitely compromises the immune system. The effect of heavy metals is a cumulative effect, so the more that you're exposed to, the sicker that you can become if you can't excrete them. How is this affecting us? At this point, I know there's a lot of upper respiratory infections. I know that after they spray, and you can tell when they're spraying, I mean, there's a big difference between contrails that evaporate and chemtrails that stay up there and linger all day long, and they form this milky, murky haze over the horizon. Big difference. My little daughter, Charity, she's 4. She knows the difference. When they're spraying chemtrails, she knows. She'll point. She'll say, "Hey, Daddy, chemers." She's 4. She can tell the difference.
Yeah.
There's a difference, okay? There's a big difference. And on days
but
that they're spraying... Go ahead.
I'm sorry, no, go on. Days of the spring, and I'll finish. I'll ask you after.
Yeah, and the days that they're spraying, after that, you'll see people, that you'll have a higher instance of people going to the hospital in the emergency room for respiratory issues. We're definitely being affected by it. We're the guinea pigs. I don't know how it will affect us long term.
I heard you say something else too that really struck me. You said, with all the things going on in the world, there's so much evidence. The problem isn't lack of evidence. The evidence is there, but the fact is that they're just people that don't want to believe that this is happening. Because you just talked about chemtrails, and I got into an argument with a guy a month ago or so about the chemtrails. I'm like, they're there. You can look at them. The clouds don't look like that. Oh no, it's not. So he called me a conspiracy theorist and just
right. Yeah, it goes back to the good old sheeple training.
Yeah, But that's something that's right in front of their eyes.
You're right. Like I said, it's hidden in plain view. They'll spray the chemicals in the air, and it looks like nothing natural, and we know that there's something wrong. But then they'll tell us that it's natural, and so this cognitive dissonance kicks in, and we say, oh, well, they told us it was natural. They told us that we were conspiracy theorists if we believe that a white murky haze over the horizon is a normal thing, and so we just believe it. And so, heck, the U.S. government has dozens of patents on geoengineering, which is exactly what this is. It's geoengineering. It's weather. It's controlling the weather while it's keeping us sick. So it kind of kills two birds with one stone as far as the global cockroaches are concerned. But they've got patents on geoengineering. You can go click through my website at cancertruth.net, and you can read the newsletters that I've written that link to the patents that the government has on geoengineering, which is weather control, which is chemtrails.
Yeah.
But no, you're a conspiracy theorist if you actually read the patents that are available online.
It's totally 1984 Brave New World, I'm saying. Totally.
Right, if you read the data, the medical papers, like all these things just make you a conspiracy theorist. Watching your docu-series, and you got to episode 7 where you're interviewing some of the people who have used natural cures, and you were talking to Chris Work, who we had on our show a while back, and he described how aggressive the doctors had become once he sort of opted out and he was just pulling a no-show and not coming in for the chemotherapy, how aggressive they were to try and get him to come in. And I was thinking, this is sort of like what you often call the medical mafia. We sometimes call it the medical industrial complex. And this level of aggression, it occurred to me when he was talking, I thought, if he were a child, boom, CPS would have been like at their house and, taking the kid away because parental rights are just, so how bad is this medical, I guess, that's why I guess I would call it the medical industrial complex, because there's like several facets to it, including CPS nowadays. So how bad is this like police state getting, for example, like the Amish family who was forced into chemotherapy, they had to leave the country to avoid it.
Stiller, I think, was the name. But it's very pervasive now for parents to have their children kidnapped. I mean, you just saw the return of Justina Pelletier in Massachusetts. which was not cancer related, but it was definitely medical mafia related. And so this is becoming commonplace for doctors, nurses, hospitals to say, no, we don't respect your right as a parent to help choose what's best for your child. We're going to tell you what they're going to do, and if you don't like it, we'll send CPS to confiscate them, to kidnap them, and that's pretty common. It happened with Selena Matthews, right? Jay Matthews' daughter, who had osteosarcoma, and I've been dealing with Jay for a couple of years now, and they took Selena down to Arizona. The Matthews family lived up in Chicago. They took her down to Arizona to work on it at a natural cancer treatment clinic, and doing really well. Jay's a pharmacist. He read into the treatment that they prescribed for her osteosarcoma, which is radiation and chemo, and he said it's just too toxic. I've read the studies, I've read the inserts on the chemo drugs, and they're not effective. I wanted to do something that she has a chance. And so he took her, being a very informed person, right, a pharmacist, he took her to something that would work better. And they said, look, you either bring her back here, put her on chemo radiation, and we're not only going to take, this is CPS in Chicago, I think they call them DFS, or Division of Family Services, but we're not only going to take Selena away from you, we're going to take all your other kids. We're going to kidnap your whole family. So he took her back, and they radiated her and chemoed her, and about 6 months ago they cut her arm off because it died from the radiation that they forced on her. So and this is a 7-year-old girl. Now she's 9, and she has no arm. So as far as I'm concerned, that those oncologists, those radiologists that did that, they should be put in jail. That's what do you call it when you beat somebody up on the street, right? What would you call that?
Manslaughter.
Well, you don't kill them, but you just beat them. Yeah, okay. I'm having a little problem with my brain. Okay. Yeah, assault. That is assault. They forced a little 7, 8, 9-year-old girl to undergo radiation treatments that the statistics showed would not work, and the oncologist actually admitted, we know this won't work, but this is the protocol. And so as a result, they forced her to have her arm cut off. That's physical assault in my books. They should be in jail.
Oh my God! Yeah, it's like these people. A lot of them are slave to rules. I guess it's part of the brainwashing, though. They're slave. Oh, protocol. It's like the Nazis that say, oh, we were just following orders.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, and that's exactly the equivalent of what's going on. It's standard of care. This is standard of care. I don't care if it doesn't work. I don't care if it's going to kill you, which most of the times the chemotherapy kills you quicker than the cancer. We're going to do it anyway because it's protocol. It's standard of care. It's the same thing, like you said, that the Nazis said in World War II. We were just doing our job when they gassed the Jews in the gas chambers. We were following orders. Can't be held responsible. Well, yeah, you can. Especially in light of the fact that when oncologists are faced with cancer, or their families face cancer, 91% of them won't do chemo. Something's wrong with that.
What? Oh, what? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Wow.
That was a survey. This is about a 20-year-old survey that was from the Royal Sydney Cancer Center. I'm sorry. That's another study. This was from the McGill Cancer Clinic in Montreal, in Canada. They surveyed oncologists, found out if they would do chemo if they were diagnosed, or if their family. 91% of them said nope, too toxic. But they'll still prescribe it to their patients. So see, that's where the problem lies. Is that oncologists just about a month ago, a month and a half ago, right before we began the quest for the cures, I was contacted by an oncologist whose wife had been diagnosed with cancer, and he was asking me what he should do because he didn't want to do chemo radiation because they're too toxic. But he still prescribes it to his patients. But when his wife gets sick, he emails me, which to me is really ironic that an oncologist would email a CPA and ask him, look, I don't want oncologists emailing me. I don't want to take my car to a shop and have the mechanic ask me how to fix it. That's why I take my car to the shop, okay?
Oh my God, I have cancer. Quick, call the accountant. Like that's how ridiculous it sounds. Get the accountant on the phone. Quickly.
Right, but that's how much they don't know.
That's how much they don't know, and they know that they don't know how to treat cancer because they've never been taught. And it's not their fault. I'm not saying it's their fault. It's the fault of the medical schools. It's the fault of the big pharma that influences the curriculum of the medical schools. That's who I hold accountable for. It's not the doctor's fault that they don't learn effective protocols to treat cancer in medical school. That they just learn what they're taught, but they're taught wrong. They're taught incorrect protocols. They just don't work.
I'm just curious, do cancer patients actually die of cancer, or do they die of cancer treatments or other diseases due to the devastated immune system caused by the treatments? Does that make sense?
Exactly,
okay.
Yeah, great question. Most of them die from the treatments. Most of them die from toxicity from radiation, toxicity from chemotherapy, from a devastated immune system from the treatments. The cancer would take a lot longer to kill them than the treatments do. I was talking about this on Coast to Coast AM about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, and I was talking with George Norrie about the way that treatments, some chemotherapy, sometimes I think at that point I said some experimental chemos cost $50,000 a shot. And we had a caller that called in right after that, and he said, "Look, you were a little bit off. My mom just got diagnosed with cancer, and she got on experimental chemo at $70,000 a shot. And you know what? She died from the shot." He said she went in. This is a true story. You can listen to the Coast to Coast archives. She went in with for a general visit for a yearly checkup. She was like 70 years old, showed no symptoms of sickness. Went in for a general checkup. They detected cancer, told her that she'd be dead if she didn't do this experimental chemo, scared her into it. She went in for the shot. She died in 14 days from the shot. It devastated her immune system, and she died of pneumonia. Okay.
Does he still have to pay her debt?
I'm sure that I'm sure that the insurance companies covered the chemo. They cover all of the stuff that kills us, and they make us pay for the good stuff. But, that's just one example. This happens over and over. One of my good friends, Dr. Michael Farley, who was a forensic pathologist for Department of Justice, he's performed hundreds of autopsies on cancer patients. He told me that he's not seen one that actually died of the cancer. They all died from the treatment. They all died from a devastated immune system, from a failed liver, from radiation toxicology, from chemotherapy toxicology. They died from the toxicity from the treatments. They did not die from the treatments. They did not die from the cancer. They died from the treatments or something that the treatments caused. A lot of times the chemo will devastate the immune system so much that you die of pneumonia or that you die of other problems, but it's not from the cancer. It's from the treatments or the complications from the treatments.
Yeah. And so since there are so many alternative cancer curing protocols to all of this, but as you mentioned, the insurance will only cover the things that kill you, but they won't cover the things that don't. But there's so many out there. There's Gerson, there's Budwig, there's Wall's protocol, cannabis, vitamin B17. And so, in your opinion, from your research and from all the many people that you've interviewed and talked to, what do you think are the key components to healing yourself?
Well, the key components to healing cancer are really the same components to prevent cancer. So number one, you have to clean up your diet. So if you want to prevent cancer, eat a clean diet. If you're sick with cancer and you haven't cleaned it up yet, eat a clean diet. What do I mean? Fresh, organic, raw vegetables and fruits, minimal meats. If you do eat meat, make sure that it's grass-fed beefs, chicken that's free-range, fish that's not radiated, that's not from the Pacific, because you're getting Fukushima radiation there, free-range eggs, organic raw milk if you drink milk, if not, almond milk, something like that. Less low processed foods. Don't eat the stuff in the middle of stores that has a shelf life of 20, 30, 50 years. Because it doesn't deteriorate, it's not going to be good for you. It's not going to be processed. It's not going to be digested well. So the number one is clean up your diet. Eat, do a lot of juicing. Eat lots of healthy oils and fats, coconut oil, avocado oil, olive oil. Those are great foods. Minimize the grains and eat the fresh fruits, vegetables, and the good oils. You also have to detoxify your body. So I'm right now in the middle of a fast. I fast probably 4, 5, 6 times a year for a week or 2 weeks. And so you got to detox. And so you detoxify the body. If you're sick from cancer, you still got to detox. So really the same to prevent and to treat. The main difference is if you're sick with cancer, you have to choose a good protocol. And you listed a few there. The Budwig protocol is excellent. Gerson, hemp is a great treatment for cancer. The high CBD and the high THC oils. As a matter of fact, most of the studies that have been done on hemp have been on the high THC, which is that's the psychoactive component that'll get you high, but it also kills a lot of cancer cells. So that has to be a main focus of your treatment protocols is the hemp, the Gerson, the Budwig. Life One's another herbal treatment for cancer that's excellent. You need to pick one of those or a combination of those and stick with it. The Gerson therapy is very difficult to stay on, so it takes someone that's very dedicated. They're very, very rigid and stringent, but it works. Dr. Gonzalez has a fantastic protocol up in New York City with enzymes and coffee enemas to detoxify, as well as specific dietary protocols that they will structure for the person. They'll customize it for you. There's a ton of good treatments out there. The main thing that you need to do is find one that you are comfortable with, that you think is going to work for you, because the mind has a lot to do with it. And so if you detoxify, eat a clean diet, and stay strict on whatever protocol you choose, and you believe that it's going to work, you got a really good shot at treating cancer, even advanced cancers. And on the flip side of the coin, if you don't believe something's going to work, even if it's the best thing since sliced bread, it's probably not going to work, because mentally you've already checked out. So you really need to be mentally in this thing, be mentally in the game, and you got a good chance.
That leads to the next question I was going to ask you. I was going to say, how important is spirituality in healing?
It's the mental spiritual aspect is huge, and so a lot of people they don't really get that, and I didn't get that until the last few years. But it's really a huge part of it is that belief system. And when you're stressed, you're stressed about you think you're going to die. You're stressed about this or that. You're stressed you don't think your treatment's going to work. We all know that when you're stressed, you secrete adrenaline and cortisol. That compromises your immune system. So it's kind of like a never-ending snowball effect. That once you get into this cycle of disbelief, then that perpetuates further complications and further compromises in your immune system in your body. And it's really kind of like a catch-22. So you got to find something that you think is going to work and believe in it and do it, all out. And then I think you got a real good chance. Most people, even advanced cancer patients, have an excellent chance if they get in and they just follow those 3 steps: clean diet, detoxify, and stick to your program.
Yeah. Yeah, and they should watch your series because if they're in that situation, because I find it so empowering when you talk at the end, when you talk to all these people who've cured themselves really, who were sent to their deathbed, said, okay, just, clean up your life, make sure that your family's taken care of because you're going to go home and die. And then they just turn it around and they look great. They look all super healthy. And you're like, and it just gives you it just goes to show you how you can just turn it around, and then these doctors really don't know what they're doing. But most people kind of do, and a lot of these people find instinctively that they get that. They go, I didn't feel comfortable with this, and so they start with that, and then they look for an alternative way. So it's truly inspiring. So thanks so much, Ty, for being on our show. We're just about out of time here, and we really appreciate it. I love having you on. And but before we let you go, we want to remind everybody how they can see the docu-series and read and buy your books.
And Virstyne, April, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
You're awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we definitely need to do it again. But people can get me at cancertruth.net, and then I've got a link through a banner there at the top that links through to the Truth About Cancer mini or docu-series. You can also go directly to thetruthaboutcancer.com. At this point, you can't see it. Episode 1 and 7 are still up on YouTube. But the rest of the series we've taken down, and we're kind of holding off. We're going to tweak some stuff. We're adding some things, and we're going to redo it. We're going to have another 11-day, as I mentioned, in the fall. So you can still see the bookends, the 1st and 7th episode, but the rest is not available at this point. And come September, October time, we're going to have another 11-day docu-series, The Truth About Cancer Part 2. I don't know what we're going to call it, Quest for the Cures Part 2, but it's going to really kick some butt.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I can't wait.
Hey, thank you, ladies. Really appreciate it.
Bye, Ty. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for being on.
Okay,
Enjoy the rest of your night.
Yeah.
I was on holiday with Sir Laurence Olivier. We had decided that 9/11 was an intelligence operation. We'd all known about JFK, had so many mistresses. The CIA shot him. Castro could never have done it. It was clear. We had become realists, conspiracy realists. How would we let everyone know was the question. We decided to buy T-shirts that told the contents of our hearts and minds to the world. We went to shop.truthattease.com. Even though the internet hadn't been invented at the time, we went to shop.truthattease.com. There we purchased Conspiracy Realist T-shirts, one of a kind, sold only at shop.truthattease.com. 100% cotton in men's and women's fitted sizes. I won't tell you which one I'm wearing.
Hey, welcome back. Thanks for listening
to
Truth Talk. Yeah, we're back, and we just talked to our bud
Ty Bollinger,
CancerTruth.net, and his docuseries, The Truth About Cancer. You can find it at thetruThaboutCancer.com. And he's dope. He's I didn't know until we had him on the show that he had been harassed and things like that.
Yeah.
And people had bothered him in that way. That really kind of pissed me off.
Yeah, it pissed me off too, but you know what? Again, I'm not surprised. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It seems like it's standard. You stick up and do right. You know, in this day and age, you get harassed. It's a shame. You whistleblow. You know, people are trying to kill children, bomb people, give them drugs that make them worse, and you say something about it, like you're either going to get your career assassinated, or you're going to get your family threatened, or get harassed, or, you know, it's sad. It's sad.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It is sad, and then I know, and it's
you know what I wonder too? I wonder what the people who are doing the harassing think. I wonder if they really believe what they are, you know, they're doing. Like somebody comes and tells them to, okay, call this dude and threaten his family. And I wonder if the person making the phone call is really aware of, like, what they're doing. If they think this guy that they're calling or this family that they're harassing is really bad, or they're, you know, somebody has a gun to their throats, or they're getting paid money or what, you know?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Yeah, it's maybe.
I don't even know. No, that was just hypothetical. I'm just putting that out there because I wonder, you know, the people that are doing the harassing, they're ultimately screwing themselves. Mm-hmm. Because people that come out and speak on things that are going to be helpful toward humanity, eventually it's going to come back to them.
Yeah.
So if you somebody, you know, finds a cure for cancer and you kill them, and then, you know, somebody you love gets cancer, you're fucked. You know?
Right.
So I don't get it. That's what I guess I don't get. Like, who does this? You know?
Right.
And what are they thinking? Why do they? You know, what are they getting out of it?
I don't know. Somebody is paying them. It's like, you know, the paid skeptics that we heard them talking about in the Dr. Brzezinski film.
Yeah.
They're getting money from the government and from major corporations that are paying, you know, people to be like trolls on the internet. So are they also using some of these people or people like this to make phone calls?
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, and hopefully the threats are idle. They're not really trying to do anything to these people physically, but they're saying that just so that they'll be afraid and kind of either water down what they say or just stop saying it completely. So, I mean, Ty said he was really shaken up by it, and I can imagine. That's really scary.
Yeah.
I would be horrified. And then he he's just kind of pissed. He's just kind of angry about it.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't really seem to be slowing down in any way as a result of it. He's just sort of going through it because he's just over it. But it's really scary. I find that just horrifying that you would do that to somebody just for trying to help people.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not even like he's coming up with the cure himself. He just is giving you the information that has been suppressed from you.
Yeah.
So it's like, well,
he's making an impact too. That's when you're starting to make an impact. That's when you know that, because we joked about being on Quackwatch. They're like, if you're in this business, you haven't made it. When you get on Quackwatch, you know you've made it. You know.
Right. Exactly. That's true.
You know. So I mean, it's ridiculous. Quackwatch is nothing but a gossip, you know, online magazine for people who, you know, are vindictive and mean and want to spread really nasty things about doctors, as you know, somebody would about a celebrity in Hollywood, but they do it with doctors, and they don't like you know, they really don't have any. They scream science, you know, all damn day, but they don't really have any science to back up what they're saying. The science actually works in the favor of the people with the alternative methods.
Yeah,
which I found fascinating. Yeah, because April, when I first started getting into this, I thought I was gonna get a balanced kind of like come to like a balanced conclusion. Because I was thinking, okay, well maybe there is something to chemotherapy and radiation. I know that sounds ridiculous now. It's blasphemy now, but I was like, well, maybe there's some middle ground. Maybe it's like one and the other kind of mixed together, and both sides, are wrong, and both sides have something right to say. But no, there's nothing. There's nothing on the other side. Even like the vaccine arguments. Most of the stuff I've seen Paul Offit talk about, he basically just ridicules people that don't get their children vaccinated, and I found that fascinating, because I was like, okay, well maybe he's going to give me his version of what he thinks vaccine science is, because he is a virologist, but he just talks smack, just like gossip, like it's like high class gossiping and intellectual gossip. Right. He's an intellectual gossiper, and he didn't say one thing in one of the lectures I watched about him. He didn't say one thing about the science of vaccination and how it actually helps people, hurts people, or his version of how he thinks it helps people. And it's even more disturbing is that people just follow him, like the Pied Piper, Yeah. Like the Pied Piper, he's leading them to a river to drown, because
I know, it's true. I kind of expected that, even myself, having seen my son's vaccine injury. I didn't necessarily I didn't know that vaccines were just completely useless. I sort of expected, well, they harm some people, and I don't really know why this happened to my son, but I maybe it's a rare thing, like, they would tell you, and but at least maybe he's protected from the diseases, and then when I looked into it, and I was like, oh wow, they don't even protect you from the disease, and oh wow, it's actually happening to all these people. It's just that it doesn't happen in this way. Sometimes it happens in other ways, and sometimes babies are dying. It's like, and then when I started seeing all of that, I was like,
you're like, there's
really?
People that still get all the cases of the CDC that report the mumps and the measles. Wow, most of them were vaccinated. And they still got the disease.
I know, and they're so bizarre. Like even when they admit that most of them are vaccinated, instead of just saying, well, it doesn't work, we just get it, it doesn't work, scrap it, we're wrong, we don't know what we're doing, they go, oh, well, then they must need a booster. They must need...
They blame it on the people that were unvaccinated. Yeah, they blame it on the unvaccinated.
Oh, there's some people it doesn't work on.
Yeah, or really, like 90% of the people that were inoculated, or, that injected, it didn't work on them. Okay.
It's just so crazy. It's just ridiculous. And I remember other people have told us that, too. Like, I think when we had Brandon Tuberville on our show, and he was, like, looking into it, because he's a journalist, and he said when he looked into it, he thought he was going to see that there would be something on the other side, but then there was just really nothing.
Nothing. I know, not even, like, an inkling. Like, it blew my mind.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show how easily people buy lies, and then it got me thinking about, and I'm sure we talk about this a lot, when we talk about how people never read studies or do studies. It's just, they'll see the news, and then they'll say, a new study shows that blah, 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 blah. Ketchup turns you into a pig, and they'll just take it. They'll just be like, oh, well, I know that ketchup turns you a pig because I heard Anderson Cooper say it, so it must be true.
Yeah, exactly.
But they'll never take the time to actually read the study and see what the study says or who funds the study. It's incredible. It's incredible. And a lot of so-called people who claim themselves to be smart and intellectual too. That's what's astounded me too in this movement. That a lot of people I used to look up to and thought they were smart. I don't anymore. I don't think that's the appearing smart isn't the most important quality,
Right. because there's a lot to be said for being critical and trusting your instinct. In some ways, you might hear like a study like that, catch-up turns, people in a pit. If you're a critical thinker, you're going to go, well, that doesn't seem logical. Why would that be true? And then you'd look at the research and realize that it's not true, or that it's just a headline. If you actually even read the data, sometimes they tell you that it's not true. Just like with the vaccine industry. I mean, if you actually, they say it, this is the best way you can protect yourself against the flu. But when you actually read the insert, they go, well, we don't really know if this is going to protect you against the flu. And so it's, because if you just trust your instinct and kind of go, well, I don't really know, or, I knew some people who got the flu shot and they got sick afterwards, so I'm kind of skeptical. Maybe I don't want to take that, and so it's not necessarily, intelligence isn't just being able to regurgitate facts or regurgitate information that you've been read in a book or that someone told you or whatever. It's like, or being able to do what you're told. Sometimes it means trusting your instincts, and it means, then taking a critical look at something and not just being able to do that, being actually kind of inquisitive or curious.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't respect that either, and it's honestly like getting old. It's like so boring at this point. This whole science snootery.
Ooh, I love that. I'm gonna take that one. I like that. Science snooty.
Yeah,
science snobbery.
Science snobs and snooters or whatever. It's just getting kind of old. Like it's, I don't know. That whole, well, that's not a Nobel laureate, or that's not a
And that's credible evidence.
Oh, yawn.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, give it a rest. Yeah. Jesus Christ. And they just seem to think that everything happened, the world is just all, we were all just, I don't know, completely incapable until these scientists came along and saved us from ourselves. It's like, it's just so
like
boring.
Jesus, right?
Yeah, exactly, the deities of science. So when it comes to cancer, I mean, cancer is as big a rabbit hole as the vaccine industry. In fact, there's, and Ty will back us on this, if I can't remember if we talked about this during the show, but that there's a lot of evidence to show that vaccines can cause cancer, and can be one of the links to causing cancer. Other things, but a lot of things do, because cancer is basically an imbalance. And so anything that can get into your body and create an imbalance that will create an acidic environment for cancer cells to thrive can contribute to you having cancer. And I think that what we're learning too from these people that come on and these experts that talk about it is that it's preventative. You can prevent it by keeping a balance in your pH. You can have an alkaline environment. You cannot, if you have it's just about balance. It's just a balancing act. It's just about, how much a healthy, clean lifestyle that you have, and then your body will kind of take care of itself, and the immune system will take care of itself, because cancer cells can come and go, which I thought, when the first time we had Ty on and he was describing cancer and he explained that to me, I was like, huh? Cancer cells just come and go? Like they're just living in your body at all times? And and then he's like, so when somebody says you have cancer, what that really means is that it was a growth. It was like a cluster, and they just got too big. And then it starts to create some kind of like blockage or something. Then it creates a problem once it becomes a tumor. And so, but yeah, they're in the body at all time, all the time. They can either come and go, or they can get big, or they can do this and that. And so that was like another thing that I thought, wow, that's weird. No one ever told me that.
Yeah.
Like, I never knew that you could just have it all the time. Yeah. So, anyway, but yeah, it's really empowering to know that there's things you can do to prevent it, and that there's things that you can do if you get it, that you wouldn't have to necessarily die. I think that's the message that these guys are trying to convey, and that's why we want to bring them on so people can hear them. And say, yeah, it doesn't have to be like that. And anyone who really tries to speak out, like one of the guys he interviews in his documentary is G. Edward Griffin, who wrote the book World Without Cancer. And that is where I think I was one of the first ones that I had learned about that there was a cover-up regarding, the cure for cancer, and where they, outlawed, was that guy that got arrested for selling apricot seeds or giving people apricot seeds or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the reason apricot seeds contain this, it's vitamin B17, which is a cancer. It can kill cancer cells.
Is it also in apricots too, or is it just in a more concentrated form in the seed?
I think it's just in the seed itself.
Okay.
And and apple seeds and certain fruit seeds. And and so he was talking about it, and he said that in his book and his documentary, G. Edward Griffin, and he talks about it from a standpoint of that the deficiency in B17 has become more prevalent since they've been using pesticides and all these things in the agriculture, because our soil is depleted, so we're not getting all the nutrients that our body needs, and therefore it's creating this epidemic of cancer because people are just nutritionally deficient. They're not getting the nutrients that they need. And somewhere in there they banned and outlawed vitamin B17 injections, because they used to give them in a concentrated form as an injection as a cancer treatment. And then that got outlawed. So I guess this guy can't even sell apricot seeds. I don't know how you're supposed to control that, but they, because it's a natural thing, right? It's just you can just eat an apricot, open it up, and then there it is. It's what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
I don't know. They ban apricots completely, and you can't eat them. I mean, that's really strange. And they're in apples too, so I don't know where you would, how they would control that completely. But there's lots of different ways that people have been able to heal through cancer. And Ty, if you go on his website, he talks about the use of cannabis and hemp, and that is one treatment. He talks about, like we said, the B17. He talks about the just restarting the immune system through a raw food diet for a while. You can juice it out, Gerson therapy. There's a million, not a million, but there's a lot of different ways that it's treatable.
And thank God. It's great that there are different ways. There's not just one way, And then, not only, who's it, God, what's his name? His last name is Gonzalez. I can't think of his first name, but he's a friend of Robert Scott Bill's, and he has a method too of using, I think, enzymes and certain minerals and vitamins to.
I think it's Nicholas Gonzalez.
Yes. Yeah. That's great. It's great that there's so many cures that aren't harmful to the body.
Right, because these cures, or the standard of care treatment is the radiation and the chemo, and it's really, really hard on the body.
Yeah.
And very few people can actually survive it. They actually die from the treatment a lot of times before they die from the cancer itself. So I think it's a good way to. The health is always a big issue for us because I think it's something that's personal to us, but it's also something that people can take control over, and you can have control over how you eat, what you put into your body, and therefore you can really basically control your health through that. And that's kind of as simple as it sounds. It's true, and that doesn't mean to say that you won't ever get sick or. Well, they told me to eat healthy, and then I still got a cold. Well, things happen. You're going to get sick. It's. I don't know. There's always going to be something that's going to come up like that, but that's a good sign of a healthy immune system. If you get sick and you fight it off, then that's a good sign of a healthy immune system. And that's there's a whole. I forget which series it was in his docuseries that. There's a whole one on the immune system, And I recommend going through there and looking at this. I've seen a couple of them. I haven't been able to see all of the series. Have you watched all of it or most of it?
Oh, I watched most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was great. A lot of that stuff, I mean, just because we've been doing this for a while, I already knew.
Right.
But it was still great. There's so many documentaries being made on cancer now, and I'm so happy. Like,
yeah.
You know, I don't even see, like, competition with, like, well, this one's better than this one. Thank God they're all being made, and I think that's really how we're going to get the word out to people about cancer. A lot of the stuff, not just cancer, but a lot of the stuff that we talk about, is that we're going to, you know, have to do it ourselves. And I don't see the day where we're going to have a press conference and they're going to, you know, come out and say, oh, we found the cure for cancer. They're not going to, like, announce it on the news, you know?
Right. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. And I was saying, I got so angry the other day because I was watching the news, and they were reporting on this pipe that had broken in Westwood, and it caused flooding in the area. And I was like, well, they need to be talking about cancer cures. Why are they reporting a pipe that burst in a city like I don't even live close near? So, I mean, they're like, oh, wow, there's a pipe that just broke here, Jill. Oh, what that's got? Wow, it's been pouring water for hours. Wow, look at it go. I'm like, it's a fucking pipe. Have you seen a fucking water pipe burst before? Are you serious? Like, that's the most exciting thing, the most important thing that's going on in the world today? I was like, give me a break.
No, yeah, it's, I know, right? They should be talking about cancer cures and about, you know, because things that will affect a lot of people all over the world. And, you know, and these things, but it just goes to show how suppressed that information is, because the news is paid for by the pharmaceutical companies. That's who their sponsors are.
No, shut up, get out.
You know, right? I mean, we've seen the commercials, so we know where they get their money, so they're not invested in that. They don't want to tell you about it, because there's no money in the cure. There's no money in apricot seeds, you know. I remember Chris Wark being on our show. He's like, "There's no money in blueberries, you know. There's no money in there's no money in blueberries. There's no money in apricot seeds. There's no money in even in the cannabis industry. There might be a little money in that.
You know what though? There can be if things shift, you know.
Yeah.
Because if people had more farms as their businesses and grew marijuana and sold it, then there could be money in that. But the thing is, it would like there's more money in it for lots of different people, not just like sole corporation, and that's the crux of it all for them. You know, they want all the money. You know.
Right, and once they admit that it is effective and that it is useful, because they've invested in it, then it will let people know that that it's true. The conspiracy theorists are right. They have been suppressing it, and by their suppressing of it, you know. But guess what? People can grow it themselves. It's not you're not dependent upon a corporation. You might not have a yard. You might not have. You know. It might not be feasible or accessible for you to do it, and so you may want to buy it. But if you wanted to, if you had the ability, you could do it yourself. And that's the whole thing, is like, no, we don't want to stop. We want to stop people from just being able to do it themselves, you know. So anyway, I think we're just about out of time here, so we're going to head and close out the show. But we want to thank Ty Bollinger for being on the show today. The website is cancertruth.net, and the series is The Truth About Cancer. You can find it at thetruthaboutcancer.com. So Ty, you're awesome. We love you. Thanks for being on today.
We love you, guys. Thanks, yeah.
Until next time, peace, truth, and love you.
Peace, truth, and love you guys. Bye-bye.